In this video, I just want to briefly talk about the new Fungineers products, the Thunder rails, and the new SuperFlux motor. To be clear, I received both of those for free, and but I'm not getting paid or anything like that to review this. I'm not getting any kickbacks, but of course, I am biased. I do like Fungineers. I like what he's doing and I want him to succeed. But I'm going to try to be as real as possible here in my review. I've had both of these now for over a month. I had a bunch of issues I ran into. I injured my knee, not one-wheeling. I had a bunch of trouble with putting together my controller, and then I screwed up the heatsink, and so a whole bunch of problems. Anyway, it took a little longer than expected, but I pretty much ready to give you guys my summary of what I think about it and how everything went. Let's start with the rails. What I love about the rails is that they look awesome, first of all. Build quality feels amazing, the fit is impeccable, and it comes with M5 threads, but they happen to also be compatible with the Imperial 1032 screws that you have from your one wheels, so you don't need to get M5 screws. Also, the threads seem to be holding up really well. I've been probably disassembled this board 10 times by now, trying different batteries and different controllers, and never had any issues. Jaeger, come on! What's absolutely cool about these things is the adjustable height. You can ride them you can use them as a lowering kit. You can lift them if you like that extra clearance. And then above all, I mean, the price is pretty much unbeatable. $250 plus shipping. I hope that Fungineers can keep that price level, but that is a pretty unbeatable price. Now, what I don't like about them, well, my main complaint is that those things are so nice, but I have no way to protect them. Like, I put on these little rail guards in the front and the back, but when I ride them on trails and the thing rolls, it just gets scratched up. But yeah, I know, I shouldn't be a baby about it, so okay, I'll just shut up about this. And then the other thing is that I kind of do like fenders. Those tires, they just kick up so much crap and it fills up my damn shoes. But with the W or any W rails, fenders don't really work too well, especially if you're using it in the lowered mode. And then the last thing, the only other little complaint would be that it's not easy to reach the valve anymore because of the thick centerpiece in the rails. So you need a 90-degree adapter for your valve if you want to check air pressure or pump it up. And yeah, but that's about it. I mean, these are pretty awesome rails, and if I were to build another one wheel, I would definitely pick up another set of these rails. And also they are coming, I think he sells them now in black all the time, and then every month he wants to come out with a new color. So there's going to be limited runs of individual colors, but yeah, I have no idea what the next color is. Now, on to the motor. So this SuperFlux motor is designed to be fully compatible with the XR, well, the XR format, not the XR one wheel per se, because this motor is not going to work with a future motion controller. Just the internal properties of the motor are so vastly different to the original motor that there's just no chance that it would work. I don't think it would kill your controller, but you wouldn't want to ride it. I mean, somebody I'm sure is going to try out what it does and what kind of weird sounds it makes, but I don't expect it to do much. it would probably work, but it's just speculation. It's not designed for that. You do need a VESC if you want to use this motor. Depending on what your priorities are, there are several things to really like about this motor. One thing is you will get a higher top speed. So no matter what battery you're riding, at the same voltage, due to the higher kV, you will get a faster speed. And the kV is about 18% higher than the hypercore. And that means you can go about 18% faster at the same battery voltage. Now, I have a prototype motor, but as far as I understand, the production models are going to be very similar to mine. It's not identical in terms of kV. So the 18% is most likely going to apply also to your guys' motors when you receive them. Digger, come on.
30 miles per hour. Some impressive speed. Slow down to 33. I hope you're wearing your gear.
Now, my biggest worry about a motor with a higher kV is that 33. It would be less torquey, but it actually is still more, it has more torque than the hypercore. And how that is possible, it's simply because the stator is bigger, it's got more copper infill, it's got basically just a stronger motor that can handle more amps. Yep, go. Oh.
Wow, like my nose doesn't even tip.
Now, not only does it handle more amps, it also requires more amps. So you need about 18% more amps. Oh yeah, so the motor amps will be higher, which means your MOSFETs will run hotter, but the battery amps will stay the same. So efficiency-wise, nothing has changed really, but the motor amps you will see are going to be higher. And when you run the same MOSFETs at higher motor amps, even if the battery amps are the same, you tend to heat up the MOSFETs. You'll need to improve your cooling on your controller. Because of the higher torque and the ability to handle more amps and the need for more amps, the worry was that the motor would heat up more quickly. Something similar happened back when the float wheel motor was introduced. The additional required, it basically just heated up really quickly. It was a faster and superior motor, but the thermal performance was just really bad, so you couldn't really take advantage of that extra torque. But this is not the case with the SuperFlux. First, there is stator rate put in from the factory, which is really cool. That way you don't have to do it yourself. And second, there is more metal in the axle, in the stator itself, and that helps transfer the heat better. So the motor just does not heat up as much as the hypercore. Now, how much is due to stator rate? How much is due to the bigger axle and the thicker, the additional metal? I have no idea. I'm not going to try to determine that. But one day when I add stator rate to my hypercore, then I'll probably get a better answer. But for now, all that really matters is that you don't have to worry about the motor overheating. But you do have to worry about your MOSFETs. Oh yeah, when I did my when I did my A to B tests where I had the exact same setup with the two different motors, the efficiency is identical. I used the exact same amount of watt hours for the same distance at the same speed. So I was not able to determine any difference in terms of efficiency. So you don't have to worry that the higher power motor somehow uses up more energy or drains your battery faster. Now, obviously, if you keep going faster, and if you're riding harder, you're going to use more battery. That's normal. But if everything is equal, same rider weight, same tire pressure, same terrain, same riding style, then your battery consumption will also remain the same. And yeah, other than that, the feel was just really great. It runs quiet, everything just behaves the way you want it to behave, nothing to complain about. And honestly, when you first ride it, you really can't even tell that you're not riding a hypercore. It just feels the same. You don't have to get used to a new motor in any way. You will just notice that A, you can go faster, and B, you can climb things that before you could feel that the feel stator saturation setting in and can't climb certain things, or you just feel like the motor is stalling, and that just doesn't happen anymore, or not as quickly, obviously. The last thing that was cool about the SuperFlux is that it holds air without slime. I was able to run my tires without any slime, but then when I added my TPU rim protectors, then it started leaking, so I did add some slime, like a third of a bottle, and now I don't have a problem anymore. I'm basically under the same pressure for a few weeks. What are sort of the negatives about this motor? There's not really much, but there are two things that one could see as negatives. First, you got the weight. That thing is heavy. It is a lot heavier than a hypercore. I think the stator is about twice the weight. So you got all that extra copper and the bigger aluminum axle. And so that just weighs a lot more, and you can really feel it when you lift the board. There's like an extra 5 pounds of weight in that motor. But, I mean, for normal trail riding, for any normal cruising, it's not a big deal. For tricks, maybe. I'm not much of a trick guy, so I could imagine that extra weight has some downsides. But yeah, that's what you get. You have a much more powerful motor. That power has to come from somewhere. You can't get that without extra weight. Now, the other thing is the connectors. The connectors are intended for a vest, and so they're just bullet connectors and a 6-pin JST. So now we need the Hall sensor wires to reach to about here, while these are supposed to get connected over there. So we need to take off a lot more of that wire housing. And I hope I'm not gonna cut into phase wires. Also, the Hall sensor wires are not protected additionally on the inside, so I gotta be extra careful not to touch them. But I honestly really like the ability to be able to disconnect my motor without having to open up my controller box. So having the Molex connector, as bulky as it is, and the Switchcraft for the Hall sensors, yeah, they're bulky, but they're very convenient. You can keep the controller box closed and just disconnect your motor. So when you do a tire change, it's really quick and easy. Speaking of tire change, the tire change is a little harder than on a hypercore. That's because of the bigger stator. The groove for the tire change is also not as deep, but I've been able to do it. I did have to use some destructive methods to get my Vega off. Alright, these fumes are toxic, so I knew these things would come in handy one day. but putting the enduro on and taking it back off and putting the rim protectors on felt just as easy as on a hypercore motor. So it's really not that big a deal, and I don't think having to cut your Vega in half is that big a deal for well, also the motor ships without a tire, so you don't have to worry about it. I received it with a brand new Vega already on, so I did feel a little bad cutting up a brand new tire, but that was the only way I was able to get it off. And yeah, that is about it. That's all I have on the SuperFlux and the Thunder rails. So I'm still recovering from an injury, so I haven't been riding single tracks for the last 3 weeks, but I think this weekend I'm going to be back on the single tracks. Oh shit. There goes a rabbit.
Jäger, no! Stay here! Leave it! Leave it!
What is next? I still haven't really had a chance to let any good riders try out the SuperFlux because of Float Life Fest. Guys in San Diego weren't really there, and it wasn't very convenient for me to go down for an hour. But there might be an opportunity this Sunday. I have to go to San Diego anyway, so there might be a few people riding it. Also, I have to admit that when I gave this to some of the better riders to ride a few weeks ago, they weren't used to vests, so to them, they couldn't even push the board because they hadn't gotten used yet to the ride feel of that board. So it was pretty awkward for them to ride, and they couldn't really get to experience any of the additional capabilities of the motor, so that didn't really work out too well. Jaeger, leave it. Come on, let's go. So that is all, and talk to you guys next time.